Mike, Impossible Foods just announced it's launching its products at Walmart stores. It's a huge step for the company into the U.S. grocery space. Shares of its rival Beyond Meat underperforming the market at the moment. Now, the move marks a 50x expansion of Impossible's retail footprint in the U.S. in fewer than 6 months. That's important because grocery sales of alt protein products have just skyrocketed during the pandemic. Nielsen reporting sales of fresh meat alternatives are up more than 140% since March. At the same time, the food.
How should we think about the pace of sales in the second quarter and how transferable that pace is to future quarters, given you had this sort of the confluence of the stay-at-home restrictions being lifted, you had summer approaching, and then you had this desire of people to find some outdoor activities?
Yeah, the second quarter was very dynamic. It started off with very depressed demand in early April that carried over from the end of the first quarter. But then we saw a rapid pickup right at the end of April.
Former Godfather's Pizza CEO and presidential candidate Herman Cain has died after a battle with COVID-19. He had been hospitalized with the illness for a month. His death was announced on his website Thursday. It said that while Cain was healthy leading up to contracting the virus, his history of colon cancer put him in a high-risk category. It's unclear where he contracted the coronavirus. The website's editor wrote, "We all prayed so hard every day. We knew the time would come when the Lord would call him home, but we really liked having him here with us, and we held out hope he'd have a full recovery." Cain ran for the Republican presidential nomination in 2012. His platform centered around major tax overhaul. More recently, he had been considered for the Federal Reserve by President Donald Trump. Prior to getting sick, Cain was set to host a new show on Newsmax TV. He's survived by his wife and 2 children. For Newsy, I'm Caitlin Baldwin.
Well, the U.S. opened up while infection rates were still going up. The summer is helpful. High temperature reduces force of infection. People spend more time outdoors. The fall, if we didn't have these new innovations coming or more people adhering to the face mask regulations, the fall could be very tough. And part of the irony is that it's the communities that haven't had it badly who are going to be most at risk in the fall. And, so we saw in the spring, a lot of cities were saying, well, we're not New York. And then, even as that rate was creeping up, they opened up. So, the U.S. Sadly is not taking this seriously. The fall could be tough, mostly in new places. And then, of course, we have the entire world where there's a lot of places. South America's tough today, but Africa, the numbers keep going up. Thank goodness that we have the innovation coming, because otherwise the eventual damage, would go on for over 5 years.
Yeah, and one place we need help still is testing. I mean, Quest just this week said they're actually falling behind or not catching up to that lag that you spoke of. Why is that? What can we do there quickly?
Well, it's insane. You shouldn't pay anyone for a test where you have the results that it takes longer than 48 hours. The whole point of the test is to let you know that you need to isolate yourself so you don't infect other people. Once you test positive, your days of infection are actually, unfortunately, a few days probably before you go to get tested, and then that 3 or 4 days afterwards. And so there is zero value to a delayed test.
Also happening today, very important, President Trump caused quite a commotion, floated the idea of delaying the November election until it's safe for people to vote in person. His tweet casting a shadow over White House efforts to push forward on more economic stimulus as enhanced unemployment benefits are set to expire tomorrow. Blake Berman is live at the White House with the kerfuffle of the day. Blake.
Hi there, Cheryl. And you'll remember Joe Biden was completely laughed off by the Trump campaign earlier this year when he predicted that this very moment would come. Well, President Trump took to Twitter today and openly suggested potentially delaying the presidential election in November. Here was the tweet, quote, "With universal mail-in voting, not absentee voting, which is good, 2020 will be the most inaccurate and fraudulent election in history. It will be a great embarrassment to the USA. Delay the election," the president asks here, "delay the election until people can properly, securely, and safely vote," he questions. That was the tweet earlier this morning. Of course, Cheryl, we should note the President of the United States does not have the ability to change the date of a presidential election. Meantime, elsewhere in